Hi Booktube. This is a very belated April reading wrap-up. I've actually been wondering if it makes any sense to do a proper wrap-up or if I should just talk about any of the books that I've read that I haven't mentioned yet. So maybe let me know. I don't know, because I've usually I mention anything I've read, in recent reads videos, but we'll see. Anyway, this time, however, until the end of April, I read a total of 9 books in April, but the last time I talked about what I'd read, it was only 2, which was From Here to Eternity by Doughty and Emma Donoghue's The Pull of the Stars. Already talked about them, about From Here to Eternity in whichever recent reads I've made before this. And I can't talk about the other one because it's a part of the Booktube Prize reading. So since then I've read another 7 books. The next one being, let me check, The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel, which is also, this one and then the next one, Writers and Lovers by Lily King. They were both Booktube Prize reading, therefore I shall not be discussing them yet. And then I read Untenrum Frei by Margarete Stokowski, which is, I think I've mentioned it. It's a sort of relatively contemporary feminist piece of writing which is quite well known in the German sphere, in the German feminism sphere, I guess, which I really enjoyed. I can't remember if I gave it 4 or 5 stars, probably 4, which just seems to be my most used rating. Yeah, it was just, a good read if you want to have a little overview of, I guess, contemporary feminist thought. That's very broad, I'm sorry. So she charts it through sort of personal memories, but also gives, statistical data or talks about the experiences of other people. And yeah, whatever. I thought it was good. Then I read, I keep saying read. April was the month of audiobooks. Most of these books I listened to on audio. So I listened to Odd Girl Out by Laura James. This was, I saw it on Hannah's channel, Let's Talk About Books Baby. So this is a book, this is non-fiction by Laura James, who is a writer in the UK. Can't remember which publication she writes for or whether she's freelance. I think she's freelance. Anyway, so she was diagnosed with being on the autistic spectrum when she was 45. So she's sort of charting her navigating this new diagnosis, at an age where she's already had, I think, 3 children or maybe 4, I can't remember now, in a marriage and so on, and trying to come to terms with it. And it was a really good insight into how that sort of diagnosis may, on the one hand, give a certain amount of relief to know that it wasn't actually, there's nothing wrong with me. Well, it's my brain that functions differently. And so she talks about prior experiences as well, that she sort of, connects with this diagnosis, and also how she charts her life within her relationship going forward, and things she struggles with. I really liked it. I don't think it was the perfect book, but then, what is a perfect book? This is a very personal story, right? You can't expect one person to reflect on all aspects of this type of of this type of living on the spectrum. So yeah, I think that was the only thing that kind of every so often got slightly annoying, because she's quite a privileged woman still, and yeah, but like I said, I think that's a bit of a silly criticism, to be perfectly honest, because it is a memoir. So why shouldn't you talk about herself all the time? Anyway, okay, the next one was also upon the recommendation of Hannah at Let's Talk About Books Baby, which was Sitting Pretty by Rebekah Taussig. She is a oh god, I can't remember. So she's a wheelchair user. She has rather complex disability that affects a lot of things in her everyday life, and she is she's a teacher, or she was a full-time teacher for a while. And she basically speaks about also, this is a memoir as well. It's, about her growing up and her experiences of, growing up in this, ableist society, the lack of accessibility in, within her own hometown, but also within the work environment, which isn't really, how do you say this, set up for somebody like her, who has other needs than, this sort of 9-to-5 type of work routine, and so on and so forth. Sorry, I'm not very eloquent today, am I? Yeah, so she talks about her personal experiences with that, but also she draws a bit of a larger picture with regards to advocacy for accessibility and inclusion within larger society. And she talks about how it's not just about, how do you say this? She makes these points that, granting access, or, making sure that public spaces are more accessible doesn't only, help people who, it doesn't only help disabled people access these spaces. Usually there's then also a, as a consequence, there tend to be other improvements for society at large, which we tend to, dismiss or forget about. And she also advocates for the inclusion of disabled people, not only because, well, it's obviously a human right to be, to take part in public life and, in work life and so on and so forth. But also she argues that would actually be beneficial to the rest of society, and able-bodied people as well. It was a very good book, very eye-opening. It also made me, I guess, question a few things that I may have done in the past or said in the past, not in a mean-spirited way, but, more, out of ignorance. So I can highly recommend it if you would like to hear from that sort of perspective. Then the next book I read was Consent by Vanessa Springora, which is also a memoir. I think so. April was the month of audiobooks and the month of memoirs, it seems. It's a memoir by Vanessa Springora about her experiences of grooming and basically, sexual abuse by a much older man who was a lauded literary figure in France at the time she was growing up. He was 49 and she was 14, I think, when he sort of started being in touch with her, and then, you know, subsequently started a relationship with her. And she decries this sort of weird state in French literary circles to basically excuse any such behavior, which was quite open because he wrote about this in his books, because he was an artist. Sorry, my phone ran out of space. So back to Vanessa Springora. Yeah, so she speaks about how this man was basically able to do all this, not just with her, but with a lot of other young girls. It's one, I hate the term underage woman, she's a girl. And also young boys that, you know, he paid for to have sex with in, can't remember, is it in the Philippines or was it in Malaysia? I've forgotten now. But anyway, so it's pretty terrifying, or yeah, you know, like, yeah. And she talks about how he was able to do this and also write about it because he's an artist, and because basically he's kind of got he's been elevated to a status within French society that means that he can act with impunity, as long as he produces some sort of work of subversive art, you know. And she compares that to priests in the Catholic Church, who are the only other people that society seems to not really prosecute for crimes such as this. Yeah, and so she talks about her experience of this abuse, and also the subsequent years, and of how she suffered from him basically kind of pursuing her for ages, even after she tried to end things, and how somehow her mother was even complicit in this. She kept, you know, relaying the letters that he sent to her and so on. So it's pretty shocking, really, to see this sort of thing, to read this. But the one good thing is that her, you know, publishing this book has led to a huge backlash and, you know, an outcry within French literary circles, and there has been, you know, now a case opened against this man, and his publisher has revoked or recalled the copies of his books, and he's also had some sort of stipend, I think that was state funded, revoked. So, you know, at least her book actually had an impact. But yeah, very harrowing, but very good, in my opinion. And then I forgot to mention one other book that I actually read before that, which was a buddy read with Mark Nash. And that is, I need to read this off the title. So it's Leanne Shapton's Important Artifacts and Personal Property from the collection of Lenore, Doolan and Harold Morris, including books, street fashion and jewelry. So this is a very experimental novel, if you can still say that, because it basically shows the story of the relationship between the two characters here, Lenore Doolan and Harold Morris, in the form of an auction catalogue. where basically their personal items are being auctioned off. These include all sorts of trinkets, books, as it says, street fashion, jewelry, and also letters, notes that are found in books, and email printouts. So she is much younger than he is. She writes a column in the New Yorker about cake specifically, and he is a photographer who travels the world all the time on shoots, so he's often away. And this basically shows the sort of, the beginning stages of this sort of infatuation and falling in love until, as you can probably imagine, the end of the relationship, because why else would all this stuff be auctioned off? This is the one thing that's a little bit odd. Like, why would anybody even care to buy these items for, and not, a considerable amount of money? This is never revealed in the story. It may just be, an artistic conceit. But I was happy to just, take that as it is and not question it for much longer, because I just wanted to see how this story unfolds in this unusual form of storytelling. And I'm happy to report that it's really good. It's really intimate in a way that I'm not even sure you can portray in this, I'm not even sure you can portray this type of intimacy in regular writing. You get glimpses into the private lives of the characters in a way that, I wouldn't have, I've not seen in this manner before. Part of that is also that we even get to know more than the characters themselves, because we see notes that were written, letters that were penned after a fight to the other but never sent, because they've just been tucked into a book or something that the person was reading at the time, or also letters that they had started writing to a friend but then were never sent off, and also correspondence between the main characters and other people, where they talk about, the partner. There are there are these sort of gift parcels that they used to send each other, and how that might reflect on, the state of the relationship at the time. You can make these sort of inferences. Is that the word? Well, I'm saying it. I don't know. You can tell me. Native speakers, please tell me if that's the right word. It's really good. Like, if you're into experimental storytelling, have a look at this. It's very short as well, so, and lots of pictures. So it's a rather quick read as well. I thoroughly enjoyed this. And I'm very glad that Mark Nash did too, because I suggested this one on a whim. So that was my April reading month. I think it was quite good all in all. I haven't really had many disappointments. The only thing that was a complete fail on my part is my TBR. I think I've read like 2 books from my TBR, or no, maybe started 2 books but only finished 1 or something like that. I've still not finished Fake Accounts. It has somehow left me cold, and I still owe Rainer an answer, but first I need to finish it. Currently I have too many reads on the go, and I can't keep up with any of them, so I think I'm just gonna give it a rest with TBRs for now. Okay, well, let me know if you've read any of these books. Would love to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.